G'day, Kathryn. Welcome back to the Well Workplaces podcast. How are you going?
I'm well, Tom. It's great to be back in 2024.
A new year and a lot of new goals and resolutions for people. And I think what we're just saying off air, I guess, is that the Christmas, New Year, and then into that long January. I've recently only come back to work. I've had probably the longest break I've ever had off work, which has been lovely. But certainly through the Christmas, the end of work before that, Christmas, New Year's, and a long January with lots of nice little trips up to Sydney and weddings and all these types of things. The main thing that was, I guess, consistent with all of those big events was the exposure, if you like, to alcohol. And coming into February, as it is now, we're looking ahead towards Feb Fast. And I think I told you on the last podcast, because we met last year and had our most listened to episode ever. I was talking about how good Feb Fast was for me. So I'm doing it again with some of my colleagues. And you'd be pleased to know that from Feb Fast last year, a few of my other colleagues that did it have pretty much been like drinking less, or obviously drinking less overall, and opting for no alcohol content a lot of the time in our drinks. But through Christmas and New Year's, and it just the exposure to booze was just so consistent that it's sort of like, I don't mean to say I'm like getting peer pressured, but I think I probably was being peer pressured into, do you want a champagne? It's Christmas. Or do you want a New Year's? Let's have a beer. So coming into Feb Fast, I think I need some words of wisdom. And I think some of our listeners who might be considering less alcohol or maybe considering Feb Fast might benefit from another pep talk from you, perhaps, or a bit more info around how we can do this. But yeah, Kathryn, just remind me again. So you've been alcohol-free since 2019?
Yeah, so had my last drink on the 30th of June 2019. So I will be coming up to 5 years on the 1st of July this year, which is very exciting. Yeah.
Fantastic. And it might be, it'd be great for you to wake up New Year's Day with the clearest head, like clear thinking. I imagine that would be a contrast to a lot of other people as they roll into a new year. What did you do on New Year's Day, for example?
Oh, I'm so glad you've asked me this question, because New Year's Day for me was absolutely beautiful. I was sort of managing teenagers at down the coast, and so I was in bed early and then put my alarm on for about 1:30 to 2 a.m. just to make sure that children were home and okay,
Yes.
because we had some friends' kids as well. And then at 5:30, I put my alarm on and I went and saw the sunrise at the back beach down on the Mornington Peninsula, and it was absolutely magical. And I really did feel so grateful for my alcohol-free life, because there are many New Year's Eves in the past when I have woken up feeling absolutely hideous and having to clean up after big parties. So it's a stark contrast. And I then went to walk down along the Sorrento front beach, and there were just bottles and rubbish, unbelievable, all over the beach. And I was like, oh wow. Yeah.
It's when you see something like that you realize how bigger a problem it is in Australia, the binge drinking, just how, I guess, booze-centric we are when it comes to, I guess, any event. I'm assuming the other parts of the world are the same, but I'd imagine Australia's maybe one of the worst in the world. Would that be fair?
Yes. Yep. It's very fair. I mean, I think there are certain surveys that have Australia as the drunkest nation in the world, but we're always in the top sort of, 3 or 4. I mean, the UK is pretty high up there too. And I think Germany maybe as well. So we are a nation that is very well known for its drinking, and our alcohol-centric culture, I guess, is something that is changing slowly, and the shifts are slow, but a lot of the change is really coming from the younger generations. They're starting to, I guess, be more sober curious, and with that, term, it's really about not having a problem with drinking, but understanding that alcohol may be impacting our health, our mental health, our physical health, and if you're into health and you're wanting to be that best version of yourself and reach your potential, then having time away from drinking less, only drinking very sporadically becomes a priority for a lot of people.
Yeah, and there's no more indicator of that for me, Kathryn. I was in the supermarket up in Sydney because I had a wedding up there, which was great fun. And I saw in the one of the aisles all the no alcohol type drinks. There was all sorts of things in there, and I thought of you straight away because it was pretty much half the aisle was in this almost no alcohol type drinks, and I thought, oh, these are some really good options because I knew that I was going into Feb Fast, and I felt like I needed Feb Fast, to be honest, because I think after I had a couple of days close together where I was drinking, not heavily, but just enough to feel not great the next day. And after 2 days of it, my mood was horrible. Like I was just grumpy. I wasn't my best
Mm.
self. I didn't feel great with as in like I didn't feel like a great parent, those types of things. And then I get the guilt of the whole thing. It's a whole cycle for me. And I just thought, gee, I just need to get back into some of those great habits that I had last year, probably for the most of last year, with reducing alcohol and also drinking no or low alcohol drinks when I had the opportunity. So, going into a new year, I think a lot of people have new goals, of course, and one of those might be around healthier habits.
Mm.
Tell me about Feb Fast and like because I've just kind of got onto this last year I saw it and I was like, I need to do this. What's your experience and your client experience with Feb Fast? What do you think it's so good for people?
So I think any time away from drinking is very beneficial. Whoever you are, whether you think you've got an issue with drinking or not, it's absolutely great to give our bodies and brains a break from using what is, in simplest terms, a drug and a poison that we're putting into our bodies all the time. And so I have a lot of clients that will do a 30-day break. And one of the things that I always say that's really important is you need to find an emotion-based goal rather than a behavioral-based goal. So if you're just concentrating on, I'm not drinking for 30 days, you're actually not really doing any kind of self-inquiry about changing your behavior or even focusing on the benefits that you might get from having 30 days away from drinking, and that it's really important to be open and curious to being present in what that might offer you. Often I'll have people talk about a month off and they'll say, I'm not going to go out this month. I'm just going to lay low. I can't go out because I don't want my friends to rib me. I don't want to be around alcohol. And what I would say to that is challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to get out there socially and experience connections with friends. Go into pubs and see what that feels like when you're not drinking. Yes, it might feel uncomfortable, but it also can be quite empowering in terms of you will feel a little bit of social anxiety initially, but go in with a plan, go in with knowing what type of drink you're going to order. There's lots of pubs now that generally will have a 0 alcohol beer, and see how you go. Often what will happen is the first 10 or 15 minutes might feel a little bit uncomfortable, and then you're there to catch up with friends and have great connections. And I found one of the things that has been really great for me since I've stopped drinking is I have much more present conversations, and of course you remember them all as well.
Yeah. That's a big upside, right? Instead of just everyone talking at each other and then they leave, oh, great night. I can't remember a thing. So good. I think as well, what I have noticed, and I've done this before, is if you do enter a group and it's like, maybe it's at a house or something. Oh, do you want a drink? Do you want a champagne? Do you want this? Oh no, I'll just have a soda water. I've brought my own no alcohol beers. This is maybe that first 15 minutes. People are like, oh, okay, why are you doing that? Or they probably don't ask you like that, but there is a question of, why, or, how would you suggest people navigate that one? I mean, it's not that you have to defend yourself from poisoning yourself, but like, what would be
Totally.
your advice?
Yeah. No, this is a really great question. I mean, we have this interesting discussion in the coaching space around how alcohol is the only drug that you have to kind of justify not having.
Yeah, it's weird,
And
isn't it?
it really is. And one of the things that holds a lot of people back from even having a break from drinking is they do really worry about what their friends or family or work colleagues will say. And one of the strategies that I will work on with clients is actually developing some positive communication around what your messaging is around that. And so if someone asks you, do you want a drink? Rather than saying, no, I'm not drinking, yes, I'd love a drink. I'm driving, I'll have a whatever. Or yes, I'd love a drink. I'm actually on a bit of a health kick at the moment.
Yep.
And I'd love a whatever. So it's positive rather than you sort of appearing like, oh, I'm not drinking, I'm not feeling good. And I think people use that and find that works really well. So that would be my one tip there when you're dealing with that.
I like that. I think the opposite would be, oh, I'm not drinking because, and you don't sound confident if you start answering in that way. And then people will probably try and twist, maybe if
Yes.
they might try and twist your arm. Are you sure? Are you sure? Like,
Yeah, go on, have one. Just have one. You'll be okay.
yeah,
Start tomorrow, all of that.
yeah,
And then we can find ourselves, feeling quite under pressure and trying to defend ourselves. Whereas if we are presenting confident and empowered with our decision and our choice, the people around us kind of are more accepting of it and go, oh, okay. And
yeah,
then they might even ask you some questions about, oh, so, what are you doing and how are you feeling? And then, it goes down another tact. So, yeah, I really
yeah.
think that mindset and the way that you approach it is really important.
Yeah. I think what perhaps where Feb Fast is great is it gives by even just the word, people then know that it's a structured labeled thing. Not that you need a labeled thing, but maybe for people that have never done this before and they want to try it, but they're perhaps a bit anxious about how that might be perceived or whatever, or getting peer pressured. At least if you've got a label behind it, maybe that is a very baby entry steps into this world of less alcohol or no alcohol. I think as well, I've found that I've probably used that more confident approach of I'm doing this for health. It's funny because I feel like the people that are drinking, then they start drinking less, and then they start asking you questions. Oh, tell me about. I remember last year it was like, yeah, my brain is amazing. I feel great in the morning, and I'm just like sort of selling the benefits, and then it's kind of the curiosity from them like is peaking, and then they're more interested. Oh, maybe I'll give it a go. Kind of, you can kind of almost influence people in the opposite way for a positive thing. Because I think most people everyone wants to be healthier. Um, everyone will sign up to a gym or maybe have physical goals for the year. But yeah, to sort out perhaps reducing alcohol as a goal and finding a way to commit to that, it's probably going to deliver more benefit than signing up to a gym or maybe on par benefits overall for your year if you can actually achieve it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think the role that alcohol and our use of alcohol plays in our overall health hasn't been prioritized. And it's really interesting. I belong to a gym and there's a transformation challenge on at the moment. And of course, there's focus on exercise and nutrition, but the role that alcohol plays in that challenge hasn't really been given a priority. Yes, it's about reducing or drinking less, but that's more around the calorie intake, not
Yep.
around the focus that alcohol impacts our quality of sleep. It really impacts our REM sleep cycles. It impacts the stress and cortisol that we have in our body. It can impact our immune system. It can impact our physical performance in exercise. So there are so many things that alcohol can impact in our overall health that not a lot of people are aware of. So it's really important to start to communicate that and generate more awareness around that, because I find that with a lot of my clients, what they notice within the first couple of months of having a break from alcohol is how much more productive, clear, balanced, and overall their moods are,
Yep.
again, so much better. I've had a lot of clients who have, had anxiety for many, many years. And what they've noticed is that when they reduce or stop their drinking, that their anxiety levels completely, plummet.
Yep.
And so, I think this is the thing. If you're doing something like Feb Fast, it's great because often you feel more part of a community because there might be other people in your circles who are also doing it. And so you don't feel as alone, and it does give you that structure to make a choice. And then there's just an opportunity to, what personally do you think you'll gain from having 30 days either away from drinking, being more mindful about your drinking, and what can you take from that 30 days? Or I guess in February it's 29 days this year, might be an extra day this year, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What can I take from that I can bring into my life ongoing? And I think this is, this is the thing. There are questions we can start to ask about our own drinking. Do I feel I'm becoming too dependent? Am I noticing that I've been drinking more? What does it feel like when I drink less? How's that impacting my sleep and my moods? And I also think that's also a really good thing to do if you're having a break from drinking. Just start to make a mental note of how you are sleeping and what your moods are feeling like, and can you notice a change in that?
Yeah, I love that. I love those questions for people, and certainly some good, I guess, self-inquiry through those questions. Another thing that I think on that one is sometimes when it comes to writing lists or documenting thoughts, people might start with a diary or something, and then they don't really keep that habit of documenting their thoughts or taking mental notes properly. There's this thing on your, and not I like people to get away from their phones, but if we're wanting to digitize this a little bit, there's a new feature on Apple, on iPhones, which is like a journal, and it kind of pops up. And there's also another thing that asks you, can you rate your mood, like your feeling for the day, from very unpleasant to feeling amazing. I've set that up on my phone so that every night at about 7 o'clock, I just do it. There's a little check-in on it. It's kind of like a mood. Like I kind of just look at it as a mood report for the day. But yeah, what I've noted on that is, the times that I have had drinks through the festive period, the next day and the day after that, is pretty much very unpleasant or unpleasant. And there's a little note that says moody, moody because of 1 or 2 days after alcohol, feeling guilty, those types of things. And so maybe if people are wanting to document their thoughts, it might be a good approach for the Feb Fast. But I guess like all of these types of health challenges or health kicks, like you say, like the gym, 30 days, gritting your teeth through it, and then cracking a beer on the 1st of March is kind of defeating the purpose of these types of health challenge. I guess the big question is how do you take what you learnt from the month and sort of make it an ongoing habit. One of the things, Kathryn, that's pretty prolific at this time of year as well, and this is more on the work front, is maybe annual planning for the year, maybe things like kickoffs or teams getting together and sort of planning or getting excited by the year ahead from a work perspective. And we recently as a team got together and did some planning, went to the Australian Open, and it was really great to see. Just like in previous years, we would have had around, I reckon, 70 to 80% of people wanting to drink at those types of events. And I reckon it was more like 50-50 this year. But yeah, how would you advise workplaces or employers to look after people at this? It's annoying at this time of year, I find, because you've just had a festive season, you've had too much, probably too much to drink, indulge, and now you're trying to get healthy, and then you have these events on that are kickoffs. Often there's booze involved. Yeah, how would you advise employers, I guess, facilitate more healthier living?
Yeah, this is a great question and an area of passion for me, changing workplace culture, particularly around the use of alcohol. And what I would say is I think there's a real opportunity now to look at the role that alcohol plays in workplace culture and how can you support your employees to be healthier, better versions of themselves. And one of the ways that you can do that is through educating them around alcohol. And it's not about quitting drinking. It's just, supporting things like Feb Fast and Dry July, and having someone come in and do a seminar and explain a little bit more so that people can look at their behavior and make changes. We really need some more education around it rather than just saying, oh, I'm going to stop drinking for 30 days. Because I know from personal experience that I had no issue with stopping drinking for 30 days. I would just then go and binge drink again when I finished. And so it didn't really set up behavioural change for me. I think the other thing that's really important for workplaces to start to think about is when we do have celebrations and events, how are we going to cater for people who might be choosing to have some time away from drinking, and make sure that you do have some different types of alcohol-free drinks. And also that alcohol is not the hero of the celebration, that you're not always going to pubs and wine tastings, that you're starting to mix things up with, different activities. And there's also, I think, again, letting your employees know, what the expectations are of the organisation around drinking and behaviour, because if you don't set those expectations, your employees really don't know what the standard or the benchmark is. And if they see their managers drinking a lot or encouraging a lot of drinking, then that behaviour is enabled throughout that workplace culture. So it's really important to start to set some parameters around what that looks like, both with policy, education, and starting to set up a culture. A lot of my clients talk about being sober shamed or made to feel uncomfortable when they've decided to change or pull back on their drinking choices. And I think, again, there's a real stigma. And I know, the drinking the drinker version of me used to think that people who didn't drink were kind of boring or not that fun. And again, we really need to step away from that, because what I see now is that when people drink way too much, they're the ones who are boring and not fun. They repeat themselves, they don't listen, they talk over people. So again, it's about reframing and changing the way that we look, and to be more inclusive in workplace. There are many more people who are now starting to either stop drinking. I know the figure was around 400,000 last year, and I'm sure that will be increasing. So there's larger numbers of people in our organisations and workplaces who are choosing not to really drink or have, a very, I guess, prominent sort of relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely seeing that trend in the younger generations of not focusing on drinking. It's such a good thing. Interesting. Your clients mentioning being sober shamed, or um, that idea of them, or what you just said there of like, oh, they're the boring comment. I think, yeah, like you've made a good point there. Like doing the same shit every weekend and waking up feeling crap the next day. That's pretty boring. That's a pretty boring way of going about things, isn't it? And or doing that and expecting a different outcome. Or and when you sort of dig down into why people drink, and why they might feel like they're more outgoing on drinking themselves. That I had some actually when I was away. Someone said their personality is much better when they've got a few drinks into them. I feel like that's a pretty common sort of statement, and I'm assuming that comes from a place of people not thinking more about why they drink, or maybe an insecurity or something around that. Have you heard that a little bit as well?
A
Obviously, a couple
lot.
of drinks to
Yeah,
ease
a
the pain.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big one. I mean, a lot of it is the stories that we tell ourselves, but also how
Yeah.
we have learnt to socialize. If you think about it, a lot of us have been socializing with alcohol since we were teenagers. We've not done a lot of socializing without alcohol. So, of course, we're going to think that we need alcohol to have fun, to relax. And alcohol, when we have our first drink, there is absolutely that artificial dopamine hit. There is a relaxation that we get and we feel. So that is true. It's what happens afterwards. It's what happens afterwards when the body is trying to go back into homeostasis and starts to then release a lot more stress into our system. And yeah, I I think it's it's a good question, and one that yeah.
Yeah, it's almost, you're right about the teenage. That's, I guess it all starts in teenagers' years for a lot of Australian kids, and from there we don't really know. In some ways, a bit sad as I say this out loud, but don't really know how to socialize without it on a Saturday night. And so we're kind of something like a Feb Fast to sort of reset, reframe, and reprogram our brains a little bit into how to do it. It's probably really only starts by making the decision to make a change for the positive. And then along the way, along the month of Feb, if you're listening and you're doing this Feb Fast or considering it, it's making notes on how you feel along the way and being a bit more, I guess, objective with how you're feeling, and making some self-inquiry along the way with those great questions that you had, Kathryn.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. And I think the thing around social anxiety is that we all experience it when we go into situations, to varying levels. And what I've noticed since I, now always socialize without alcohol is that you do get used to it. It's about reprogramming yourself in many ways, because when you've been repeating a certain type of behavior and going into social situations with alcohol very regularly, that's just what you're used to. And so really what I talk to clients about is we're really reprogramming a whole old, we're trying to replace an old program that we've had there for sometimes up to, 30, 40 years with a new one, and that it will initially feel a little bit awkward. But I always now just make an intention of, okay, who do I really want to have a great conversation with when I go into this environment? And is there an opportunity for me to go and meet someone new, or go up and talk to someone that I haven't met before? And I've often found in those conversations, although yes, sometimes it can feel a bit awkward, when you go into them, people really love it when you approach them and say, hey, it'd be lovely to hear about you and what's going on in your life,
Yes.
rather than always thinking about where we're going to be getting our next drink from.
Yeah, I love that, and that's it's a really good point. I've definitely been the person that's not drinking at a party and things like that, and it's quite nice to just go in with a refreshed perspective, and you can tell the person who's drinking and chatting with you, they're like, this is probably the most refreshing, interesting conversation I've had all, rather than it just being all rah rah and like not much substance to the discussion.
Yes, well, in fact, I went to a 50th towards the end of the year. I think it might have been in November. And I think I was probably one of the only people there who wasn't drinking. And I will leave functions when I'm ready to, but I stayed at this function until 2 a.m. I was one of the last 10 people there. And a couple of the other people said to me, oh my gosh, how have you lasted here without drinking? And I was like, what do you mean? I've got so much energy. I feel great. I can drive you home, and I've probably got more energy than you guys have, because the alcohol's now kicking in and starting to, make you feel a bit slow and a bit tired.
Yeah. Absolutely, be the most hydrated person in the party. That's great. Hey, Kathryn, thanks so much for your time. We've really covered some great stuff here for people that are considering Feb Fast or any other month of the year where they might consider just having a little break from alcohol, and make sure that you have a listen or have a think about some of those questions for self-inquiry if you are considering doing an alcohol-free month or Feb Fast. But Kathryn, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate it as well.